What's up everybody, it's Dirt Sheet Dan and welcome back to the Rivalry Recap. And today we'll be recapping a rivalry we see quite often in this great business. Two men who achieve great success together just to turn into very bitter rivals. I'm talking of course about the human highlight Isaiah Moore versus the evolved Theo Storm. These two men went from holding tag team titles together to being a constant thorn in each other's side. Which begs the question, how can two men who were so close drift so far apart to the point to where they can't even be in the same room? Well, let me take you to the beginning. Isaiah and Theo were one of GLWA's most beloved factions in its history, the Thieves of Greatness. The other two members were the Celtic Nightmare Adam O'Keefe and the Prince of High Risk Jaden Michael Quick. And the group formed pretty much at the start of GLWA, and it didn't really take them too long to achieve success. They dethroned the first ever tag team champions, the Mosh, on May 19, 2019 at the very first WrestleVersary. Now, GLWA allowed the Thieves to defend the belts under the Freebird rule. So for those of you who don't know, the Freebird rule allows any faction members to defend the belts regardless of which pair won them to begin with. So for example, even though it was Isaiah and O'Keefe who won them, it was Isaiah and Theo who defended them throughout the first reign. And that first reign is where we see the chemistry form between Isaiah and Theo, and why they were called the Thieves of Greatness. They were stealing the show night in and night out, proving while they were young, they were very worthy champions because they were able to hold on to the belts for 133 days. After their first reign, the Thieves would take a bit of a small break. Both men tried their luck in singles competition, each getting a shot at the top-notch championship. Isaiah was the first one to get a shot, and he faced Tyler By God Matthews in a Miracle on 34th Street fight, where he put up a hell of a fight and showed glimpses of who he would become today. After his loss, Isaiah started teaming with Adam O'Keefe again around June of 2020, where they go on to be the first and only tag team to ever win Race for the Case at WrestleVersary 2. And while they did that, Theo, he showed why his nickname was the Evolve, because he would keep grinding in the top-notch division, elevating himself to the point where he finally got his shot at the title at Recoil 2020. He competed in a triple threat match against the then champion Daniel Stark and another formidable opponent, Solomon Stone. And though he did not get the victory, just like Isaiah, Theo showed why he would become a future GLWA champion. After trying their luck in singles competition, both men started to realize how great they actually were and grew tired of being humble. At Seasons Beatings 2020, using the Freebird rule to their advantage once again, they cashed in on the Gingas after they already defended the belts in a very grueling match, truly living up to that Thief name. Needless to say, this left a very bad taste in the mouth of the GLWA fans, and the Thieves' second reign was completely different than their first. They went from young, humble upstarts to cocky, arrogant, and mischievous. Everyone was really starting to dislike this new attitude they had, although no one more than their own faction members, Jaden Michael Quick and the Celtic Nightmare. It was a civil war between the faction members on the 5th episode of Vendetta, where Theo and Isaiah defended the belts against Adam and Jaden. Isaiah and Theo picked up the victory, proving that they were the better team in the faction, and after this victory, you couldn't really tell them anything. They became absolute menaces in GLWA, doing whatever they pleased, and it didn't matter if people liked it or not. They were nearly unstoppable, proving so by holding onto the belts this time around for 233 days, 100 more days than they did their first reign. And proving how unstoppable they were, they didn't even lose them. They were stripped of the belts at Summer Bash 2021, where they took things a little bit too far by continuing to attack their opponents and officials after they already won, forcing Stone to finally take action. After being stripped, the Thieves of Greatness would take another break, focusing on their singles career in GLWA, and we'd go on to see them hit their stride and become superstars. So with that being said, let's go to their highlights. Isaiah wouldn't be without gold for long after being stripped of the tag team titles, because 1 month later he defeated Big Lee Kenzie Black at Car Subject to Change, starting a beef between the two, almost as bitter as this one between Isaiah and Theo. Speaking of Theo, he continued his beef with former faction member Jaden Michael Quick at the exact same show. They'd go on to have about a 3-month-long feud, with Jaden coming out on top, defeating Theo in a 3 Stages of Hell match, causing Theo to go on a near-year hiatus from GLWA. While this was going on, Isaiah would go on to lose his top-notch title to the Golden Grin Timothy Savage on the 17th episode of Vendetta. And after this is where we'd see the start of Isaiah's journey to the GLWA title. He'd go on to enter the Rumble at Breakthrough 2022, and even though he had to enter at the number 2 spot, he lasted 57 minutes and 35 seconds, last eliminating the Celtic Nightmare of all people to win the Rumble and be the first out of him and Theo to get a shot at the GLWA title. Isaiah would go on to capitalize on that opportunity, finally defeating Tyler Matthews in a 3 Stages of Hell match at WrestleVersary 4. Now, unfortunately, he'd have to go on to vacate the title because he broke GLWA's 60-day rule. And that rule states that if a champion doesn't defend their title for more than 60 days, they have to vacate. And he officially vacated the belt at Resistance 2022, and we wouldn't see him again until Final Destination later that same year. He challenged Cliff Killmeister for the top-notch title, and he was unsuccessful in his attempt to become a 2-time top-notch champion. And after this match, he too would take a brief hiatus from GLWA. Both men made their return in the Rumble at Breakthrough 2023, and while neither man won, it was good to see them back, especially because they left that arrogance behind and came back embracing the fans as they did once before. They would continue to build their singles resume as well. Theo would go on to have marquee matches against the likes of Kyle Shaddix, Dustin Mack, and the Alpha King Russ Jones. And speaking of Russ, he had a barn burner with Isaiah at Resistance 2023. Hell, both men even challenged Timothy Savage for the GLWA title. And it wasn't until November 25th, 2023 at Bad Company that we'd finally see the Thieves of Greatness reunion. At Bad Company, Isaiah and Theo challenged Mob Mentality for the tag team titles, and just as it looked like they were about to get the victory and start the third reign, Tyler Matthews hit Theo with a low blow, causing a disqualification. So even though the Thieves got the victory, titles can't change hands via disqualification. And not only that, Mob would continue to beat on the Thieves after the match, but Theo taking the worst of it, because Tyler Matthews would hit him with 2 conversions. This of course would ignite a feud between the two teams for the rest of the year. And at Season's Beatings, it was Thieves of Greatness versus Mob Mentality and Russ Jones and a Miracle on 34th Street fight. Now that was a very tough fight for them because remember, Theo took the worst of their attack in the month before. And defying all odds, Adam O'Keefe, Theo Storm, and Isaiah Moore were able to beat Mob and Russ, earning another shot at the tag team titles. That opportunity came at Breakthrough 2024. It was Mob Mentality versus Celtic and Isaiah for the GLWA tag team titles. It was a hell of a match with Mob targeting Isaiah's knee so much that it took him out, allowing them to pick up the victory, leaving everyone to believe Isaiah was seriously hurt. Now what I really should say, Isaiah made everyone believe he was hurt, because later on in the evening, he'd go on to pull one of the most shocking turns in GLWA history. Theo once again had a title shot at Savage, victory was in his grasp, but then the ref got knocked out. And just then, Mob Mentality's music hit. Things were looking bleak. But just then, Isaiah made his way through the crowd, acting like he was about to help Theo fend off Mob. And as soon as Theo turned his back, Isaiah attacked him and hit him with a snapshot. Then he dragged Savage's unconscious body onto Theo, costing him his title opportunity and ending the Thieves of Greatness. But you know what they say about karma? Theo wasted little time in getting his revenge, eliminating Isaiah from the Rumble, and he wasn't even in the match. However, everything that happened at Breakthrough 2024 to me was just the calm before the storm. At Ground Zero 2024, we'd have yet another Thieves of Greatness Civil War, except this time it was every man for himself, with the prize being the #1 contender for the GLWA title. In an emotionally charged triple threat, it was Theo versus Isaiah versus Celtic, with Theo coming out on top. It was definitely a feel-good moment for the Evolved One and his fans, especially because he was finally able to capture the GLWA title at Turmoil, dethroning the longest-reigning champion, Timothy Savage. Unfortunately, that feel-good moment was literally just that, a moment. Theo defeated the longest-reigning champion only just to have the shortest reign in GLWA history. At WrestleVersary 7, just 29 days later, Theo had to defend against Russ and Savage. Needless to say, this is a very difficult first defense for anybody. But the saddest part, Theo wasn't even the one to get pinned to lose his title. Russ hit Savage in the back of the head with his signature knee strike and pinned him to become the GLWA champion and ending Theo's short-lived reign. Now, the only person who was really probably grinning from ear to ear was the human highlight, Isaiah Moore, especially because in the match before he won Race for the Case for the second time, albeit with help from Twist and Flip. So while Theo's world was falling apart, Isaiah, he was breathing new life, becoming the leader of the moment. At the next show, Recoil, the human highlight, he was ready for a fight and he was feeling himself. He issued an open challenge and everyone is expecting Theo to answer. However, it was the real gangsta Big Jorge who came out, had some unkind words for Theo, and then he answered Isaiah's challenge.
This is my moment! Yeah! Now first I have to hear Theo Storm talking about, oh, I'm going to take the open challenge. This match was never for him, it was always for me.
Just as that match was getting started, Theo attacked Jorge and Isaiah, obviously very frustrated with everything going on. And that singles match quickly turned into a triple threat. Jorge managed to pick up the victory using Theo and Isaiah's hatred towards each other to his advantage. And after this triple threat, Theo would go into a brief feud with Jorge, and Isaiah, he'd continue to grow his faction, and the two wouldn't cross paths again until card subject to change. Both of them were competitors in a fatal 5-way for the #1 contender to the GLWA title, with Theo winning by pinning Isaiah of all people. Theo was finally starting to get things back on track. He won in his feud with Jorge, he pinned the man that betrayed him, and now he finally got his shot at the title he never lost against the man who took it from him, the Alpha King, Russ Jones. Theo, of course, was fighting with everything he had because, let's face it, he really had to. But let's not forget, he pinned Isaiah to get to this spot. And that didn't sit right with the human highlight. So he waited until Theo and Russ were tired, and he cashed in Race for the Case, hit Theo with a snapshot, and just to rub salt into the wound, he made sure to pin Theo to become a 2-time GLWA champion. And because Theo wasn't the champion, he didn't get a rematch clause, meaning to get back to Isaiah and that GLWA championship, he had to hit the reset button once again. It wasn't until Breakthrough 2025 that Theo would finally get that opportunity. He would enter #1 at that year's Rumble and lasted over an hour to win, securing his spot in the main event of WrestleVersary 7, almost reminiscent of Isaiah's 2022 victory where he entered at the #2 spot. And just as it looked like we were finally going to get Isaiah versus Theo one-on-one, a very surprising third party entered into this blood feud. Ring of Honor legend, the last real man, Silas Young, dethroned Isaiah Moore at the show right before WrestleVersary Turmoil, and the main event was now Silas Young versus Theo versus Isaiah, with Isaiah using his rematch clause in what will go down as one of the best main events in WrestleVersary history. Theo was finally able to recapture the GLWA title, hitting Isaiah with a hidden blade and pinning him to get the victory. Now so far, that has been the last meeting between these two. So let's go look at the record and see where they are now. Altogether, they had a total of 5 meetings throughout this rivalry, 4 of those being triple threats and 1 of them being a fatal 5-way. Theo managed to pick up 3 victories, 1 in the 5-way, 1 when he won the GLWA title, and the first victory coming in the Thieves of Greatness triple threat. Interestingly enough, in every single one of Theo's victories, he pinned Isaiah. Speaking of Isaiah, he only has 1 victory in pinfall over Theo throughout this rivalry, happening when he cashed in during Russ versus Theo. Now, the most shocking thing to me is the fact that these two have yet to meet in a straight up 1v1 match. And that actually kind of leads me to where they are now. After capturing the GLWA title for the second time, Theo was able to hold on to the belt for 106 days until saucy Josh Morris cashed in successfully at Summer Bash 2025. As for Isaiah, he'd go on to form Bad Influence with Primetime Thomas Heim after the group he created the moment casted him out. Bad Influence would go on to capture the tag team titles at Seasons Beatings 2025, beating TNA's Great Hands, Jason Hotch and John Schuyler, and they also beat Twist and Flip in a triple threat Pick Your Present match. Theo and Isaiah also entered this year's Rumble once again at Breakthrough. Isaiah eliminated Theo, and this is where we would finally see Theo snap. Shortly after being eliminated, Theo stormed back into the ring and attacked Isaiah from behind and eliminated him as well. Not only that, when I tried to get a word with Theo to ask why he did what he did, Isaiah started attacking him from behind, and the crazy part, it's still not over between these two. At our last show, Turmoil, Bad Influence had to vacate the titles due to Thomas Heim not being medically cleared. And as they were announcing this, the Man in Black challenged Isaiah to a singles match. That match ended in disqualification after Theo attacked Isaiah once again, leading to a massive brawl, causing the whole locker room having to come out and separate them. Being fed up with Theo and his actions, well, this is what the Human Highlight had to say.
One of us has to go. Rivalry 8. How about a 30-minute Iron Man match? Loser leaves GLWA.
Whoa! And as you can see, he challenged Theo to a 30-minute loser leaves Iron Man match at Wrestleversary. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our next show, Saturday, April 25th at 7 p.m. in Coloma, Michigan at Top Notch Physiques. Trust me when I tell you, you do not want to miss this. This is a match 8 years in the making with career-altering stipulations, because whoever loses this match has to leave GLWA forever. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of the Rivalry Recap. This is definitely an all-time feud in GLWA, and I'm for one glad I get to personally witness it. And you can too if you come down to Top Notch Physiques for Wrestleversary. And not only will you see that, we have a 4-way for the vacant Vendetta title, we have Josh versus Tone for the GLWA title, and not only that, of course, we have our Race for the Case ladder match. And my sources tell me this is likely to be the biggest show in GLWA history. So once again, April 25th, 7 p.m. in Coloma, Michigan at Top Notch Physiques. Thank you all once again for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Dirt Sheet Dan, and I'm out.